Hello and welcome to Rough Cut. So I noticed today actually that The Sweeney is top of the box office. So even for the post-summer slump for films, I'm really not particularly happy about this. I had a long train journey today where I got the opportunity to see again The Long Good Friday, which I've got a very beaten up VHS copy of. And bear in mind it's a very good British crime film, albeit not from the police's perspective or alleged policeman's perspective. I thought it would be worth putting up a podcast of this. So it's Long Good Friday. It's over 30 years old now, and the cars and the suits in it look very old-fashioned, but the story itself has as much impact for me as it did in the 80s. It's Bob Hoskins is the main role, and this was actually his breakthrough role. But if you've only ever seen him in Super Mario Brothers, you probably won't recognise him. Or I suppose those old BT adverts as well, which were nice in their own sense. So the film kicks off with Hoskins' character Harry, and he's the undisputed sort of crime boss of London. But actually, he describes himself as a businessman. He's disgusted by drugs. He sees that their popularity and sort of the potential for money. It's hinted in a particular scene, but he sort of deplores them really. He sort of just gets on with what he sees as being a businessman. So we understand early on in the film, in the first reel or so, that there's been 10 years of stability in London, which has been caused by Harry and his rise to power and how he controls everything, and everything is very tight. He's about to sign a renovation deal with, and it's worth billions, with some like-minded American businessmen to renovate London's docks. In the opening reel, we can see that Harry lands on Concorde. He's just come back from America and he lands in London. So shortly after, the Americans follow him to London to be greeted by a number of bombings, stabbings, and generally bad stuff happening to Harry's operation. So Harry, as a character himself, is sympathetic, and a lot of that's due to Hoskins' acting ability. But clearly he's a violent man who very fondly remembers his time as a cheeky little street urchin. He's many things, actually. He's respectful to women. Also, one of his best friends is gay, although his terminology is a bit off. He respects education, very much hard work, and he is remarkably dogged. But potentially he suffers from peripheral vision, and he's in his quest, and we certainly go along with him, his quest to find out who is hurting him in his operation. We also see he's a violent and ruthless man. It really could be a play. As I understand it, it was originally going to be a TV movie, and it sort of got upscaled for the big screen. You can see the simplicity in terms of the way it's put together, but to me that's no bad thing whatsoever. It's a simple story. It's of age, of changing times, masculinity, trust, greed, ambition, betrayal, and flexibility or lack thereof, and just knowing one's limitations. And there's something between the generation and education gap as well, and it subtly plays into this idea of change. And there's one particular line actually from Helen Mirren's character, and she says the trouble is you can't understand their psychology, and which very much sums up the film for me. So I think there's also some hubris in there, but I'm not 100% sure what that word really means, and I'm a little bit too lazy to look it up. So it's Helen Mirren's character really is the only female character in there. She's plays Harry's wife, and she's absolutely wonderful. She represents sort of the peak of beauty, of power, of respectability to all the other characters really. But beyond that, she's extremely capable and intelligent in her own right, and she stands aside from Harry, and she's one of the few characters who is respected and admired by all, as well as obviously there being some sexual interest there from various parties. But apparently Helen Mirren actually insisted that her character was changed from a sort of a mole boss into being something far more interesting, and the film is a lot more rich for it. So there's a lot of stuff in there, the old and the new. It's interesting. It's very interesting. There's also there's a few scenes in which you get the idea that Harry is a racist, that sort of the harder side to him. There's a particular scene in Brixton where he makes a comment that this neighbourhood used to be nice, now it's full of scum. So, all in all, it's a fantastic film. It's a great story. It could almost be Shakespearean, really, although it's not quite that great, but it's really strong. So instead of just spending £9 on a cinema ticket to go and see The Sweeney and another £9 or so on popcorn and a Coke, just pay £3 for this in HMV, and I'm sure you can get a copy of this on DVD, and I'm sure you'll thank me for it. So fingers crossed The Sweeney will not be number one next week. Thank you very much.